Hello, welcome to week 7. What the heck? We're in week 7. So again, if you're watching this video, it's because you were absent on one of your synchronous days, whichever that is based on your cohort. So I'm going to show you what we talked about in our Zoom calls for both days. So this is week 7. Our assignments for this week are Poetry Google Slides Part 5. We're almost done with our poetry unit. And then we have 2 graphic organizers. The due dates for these are going to be much sooner than normal assignments, so I will talk about that in just a little bit. And then again, don't forget your work from last week, our slides part 4 and our janitor doc with the paraphrasing and highlighting in there. Those will be due at the end of this week. So another announcement, you will have time to submit late assignments, but the very last day to turn in anything that is late already will be Friday, November 6th. And that is because it's going to take me a while to get through everything, and I want to make sure that I do not overload myself. So if you have late assignments, you have up to Friday, November 6th at midnight to submit them. After that, you will just get a 0 in the grade book. So I'm letting you know now, you still have time to submit things that are late, but after this date, I'm not going to be accepting any work. On top of that, I want to make it known even more that if you need my help, you can get it. So I always have office hours. All of your teachers do. It's built into our daily schedule, even on Mondays. So what I did was I created a Google form because they're amazing and I love them and they're easy to use. So if you kind of want some guidance as to how to get a hold of me in order to maybe set some sort of meeting up, you can click on this. It's in our resource folder at the very top, and it'll look something like this. Just fill it out. It'll tell you what my office hours are, and you can tell me which of those work for you, and if you want a specific time. If it's not working in Canvas for some reason, the link is also right here in these slides. But just know that's a resource for you, and I'm absolutely willing to meet and to help. It can be over the phone. It can be on Zoom. If you don't want to talk on Zoom, or if you don't want me to see your face, you can even turn your camera off and it'll basically be like a phone call, or just email, whatever it is that you need from me. Okay, so for our first writing prompt this week, we're again getting more practice with figurative language. So we're going to describe our experience with distance learning using a hyperbole. And this is specifically, I'm hoping it'll be very cathartic and kind of feel like you're venting, because hey, there's lots of frustration that we can have bundled up inside us. So for example, I've been staring at my computer for 1,000 hours today. That is a hyperbole. I didn't actually spend 1,000 hours in one day looking at my computer because that's not physically possible. I've been teaching distance learning for so long that I'm becoming the IT person for my classes. Again, that's a hyperbole for me because that's not literally a job title that I have, but it feels like it. So go ahead and take a moment to think and write out a hyperbolic statement using or describing your distance learning experience right here. And then when you're done, we'll keep going. Okay, so thank you for doing that. This is our kind of peek into what the rest of this term is going to look like, not just the unit itself, because the unit will end about a week before. So we have 3 weeks, including this week, before term 1 is done and we move on to term 2 of semester 1. So we have this week is going to be brainstorming and looking at lots of models and using graphic organizers for 2 different poems, which I will explain to you in just a second. And then we have week 8, which will be lots and lots of time built in for you to work on your poems, your writing, to practice, to get more help. And I have specifically built in some check-in conferences that are going to happen during Zoom calls, and I will explain those again in just a second. And then week 9 is when your poems are due. Poems, you will have 2 if you're doing honors, 1 if not. And then we're going to use this week as a bridge to our next unit for term 2. So let me show you, if you click on this link, it'll bring you to this Google Doc. So this is our roadmap. These are our instructions for our poetry assignment, the final assignment for this unit. So we've been spending a lot of time reading and building foundational knowledge and skills. You have come so far in a very short amount of time, and now it's your turn to write instead of just reading. So we will be showing you two different types of poems. One is called the name poem, and the other is called Where I'm From. And you will have the option to decide which one you would like to pick to actually write. If you scroll down, you'll notice that honors, you'll be writing both. So if you were pursuing honors credit, you will be writing both. So you don't have a choice. You get to do both, which they're fun. So this is what's going to happen. No matter if you're doing honors or not, everyone will be brainstorming and filling out 2 graphic organizers, one for each poem. So again, hear me, if you're not doing honors, you're still going to be doing 2 graphic organizers, one for each. Then you will pick which poem you would like to write between these 2 options. And that's why I'm having you do both graphic organizers, because I'm hoping that by generating ideas for both poems, it'll help you figure out which one you feel more excited or more comfortable to write. So you get to pick, and then during week 8, we will have built-in check-in conferences with me during our Zoom calls. So this is not an additional thing that you have to do outside of our class period. It's going to be during our Zoom call, and it's going to allow me to check in with you, see what you have so far, answer any questions that you have, and just give you support and resources to help you be an awesome poet, an awesome writer. And again, honors credit, you will be writing both poems if that is your route that you're pursuing. So all in all, you're going to have 2 weeks to complete this poem. And like I said, we're building in lots and lots of work time. The graphic organizers are going to serve you in terms of creating lots and lots of ideas, so you're not just pulling something from thin air. And it's going to help you, trust me. So these are the things that we have to turn in or to be aware of in terms of due dates. Your name graphic organizer will be due this week. If you are in the Tuesday, Thursday cohort, it will be the 29th. And if you are on Wednesday, Friday, it'll be the 30th. Both days, no matter which day, it's going to be at 10 a.m. Where I'm From graphic organizer, if you're Tuesday, Thursday, that will be due November 3rd. And for the 4th will be for Wednesday, Friday cohort. Again, both at 10 a.m. The check-in conferences will depend on what time you are scheduled. I will show you the list of when that happens. Obviously, for these purposes, you're watching this video because you were absent, so you're going to need to let me know and we can figure out a way to make that happen, because it is going to count for some points. And then your finished poem or poems, based off of honors or not, will be due for Wednesday, Friday. They're going to be November 9th, and for Tuesday, Thursday, it'll be the 10th, both of them at 10 a.m. This week is a very weird week because we have, I think it's Veterans Day on Wednesday. So the whole week is way different in terms of our schedule. So just be aware of that. So let's go back to our slides. Okay. So again, this is all linked. It's all on Canvas. So the 2 poems we're going to be looking at are the name poem and the Where I'm From poem. Both of these poems are very similar in the fact that their theme, moral, message, whatever you want to call it, is rooted in identity, this topic of identity. What you're called and where you're from matter. They help make you who you are and teach you what you want to change in your future. I'm sure all of you have realized this, that your teenage years, where you're at right now in high school, they're very formative. And there's a lot that you could choose to leave behind in your past and change about yourself, or continue on, or a little bit of both. So we're going to be looking at these 2 poems, but they're both going to deal with this theme of identity. So for our first synchronous day, we're going to look at name poems. And I want to read this quote to you. To say the name is to begin the story, the Swampy Cree Native Americans. So names are powerful. They're important. Everybody has one, more than one. and they are loaded with meaning. There's history tied to them. There's just so much in a name. And we're going to be looking at our names specifically in terms of how do they relate to our identity and who we are. So go ahead and take a second to read this poem twice. I would encourage you. And then we're going to come back together. Okay, this is a poem by Linda Christensen titled Linda May, and she is discussing her name in a poem. So I want you to think about what did you notice when you read this poem? Just think about it, brainstorm. Okay, keep those in mind, those thoughts in mind. So now we're going to be reading this poem, A Hand-Me-Down Name, and I want you, after you read it, to answer these questions. So go ahead and take some time to read it. I would suggest reading it twice, and then you're going to answer these questions in your slides. What tools did you notice? What details about the speaker did you notice? What can you infer about the speaker based on the details? How does the speaker feel about their name? How do you know? So go ahead and do that. Okay. Now that we've kind of looked at a couple examples of name poems, I want to quickly give you a word about your graphic organizers. I kind of touched on it before. I am always going to pursue the route of honoring your time. I don't want to waste your time. I only want to create and give you assignments that are going to help you learn, and they're going to help you in terms of making you successful with whatever final assessment or project or assignment we have. So, with that being said, these graphic organizers are not busy work. Some of you might come in with a fixed mindset about them, but trust me, they will help you when it comes to actually writing your poem. Literally, they will help you. So take them seriously and enjoy, because they're about you. So can't be boring, right? Okay, our name graphic organizer is going to look like this. So when you go into Canvas, you will find this under asynchronous. And when you click on it, I'm going to show you how to actually type in this, because it just needs kind of an extra step. So when you go, this one's mine. When you're in your graphic organizer, you're going to click, and you'll see that it kind of highlights the whole box. And then you're going to click again, or twice consecutively. And this should open up for you. So in order for us to format it the way we did, this is how it's going to go. So what you do is you just, once you're in this area, you click. And you can enter, and you can do bullet points like I did. You can change the font, whatever, but that's all you have to do. You just double click, and then when you're done, you have to make sure to hit save and close, because it'll save it all together. And then voila, it saves it. So that is how you actually use it. Let's go back to slides. Okay. So now I'm going to show you my example for the name. So what you're going to do, thinking and referring back to those two examples we showed you, you're going to fill out this graphic organizer. This is going to help you brainstorm things about you, about your, oops, I'm in the wrong one, about your name. So history of your name, that could be specific ties to like the meaning of your name. I would recommend doing some research and just look on Google and see, what does your name mean? My first name is Ashley, so I looked up what is the name meaning of Ashley, and I found out that it's derived from English, and it means the ash tree field. So I wrote that down because that's what I found in my research. You could also do some other forms of research by asking your family members, your parents, your guardians, ask them questions. Is there anybody else in my family that has my name, if you don't already know? Things like that. So looking at the historical ties and connections to your name. Wordplay with name. This means that you're going to try and just experiment. Don't worry about being right or wrong or perfect. You're going to try and experiment using figurative language and poetic devices to just write something about your name. So for example, I thought, okay, I'll try using a simile to write something about my name. And this is what I came up with. Ashley. Two names strung together like friends who are better together than apart. I might use that in my poem. I don't know. But it helps me kind of be creative and get some thinking out on paper, or in this term, a Google Doc. Barry Albritton, 2 names stretching from past to future, and I'm caught in the middle. Barry was my maiden name, my last name, and Albritton is my new married name. So it doesn't have to be solely your first name. You could look at whatever is important to you, whatever you want to talk about. It could be just your first name. It could be your middle name. It could be anything, as long as it's your name. First, middle, last, all together, separate parts, whatever. Associations with your name. To me, this is just kind of random thoughts or observations about your name. So I wrote, it's fairly common name for girls. I've always loved that my name is spelled this way because it's unique and I feel that I'm unique. Stories about my name. This is specifically things that you might have to ask your parents or your family members about. So a story about my name, the reason it's spelled so uniquely is because my mom's middle name is Lee, and she spelled it like that because my grandma, her favorite actress was Vivian Lee, and that's how she spelled Lee. So that's why my name is spelled the way it is. Or another example, my parents always wanted to name their daughter Ashley before they had even met each other. My parents told me that when they first started dating, they would ask each other questions, getting to know each other, and they both found out that they individually, before they had even talked about it, had always dreamt of having a daughter and naming her Ashley. So there's one story for you. And then nicknames. This one's pretty self-explanatory. What are nicknames and who calls you them? My husband and my friends call me Ash. My dad calls me Ashy because apparently that's how I pronounced my own name when I was little. My father-in-law calls me Asher. I'm not really sure why, but he does. And then sometimes in high school, like specifically when I played volleyball, people would call me Barry because that was my last name. So nicknames, keep a list, maybe write down who calls you what. And then interior monologue about your name. So I haven't finished writing about this one yet for myself, but this is basically how do you see yourself and how do you want to be remembered? So a lot of these other boxes have to do with your past, things in your childhood, things, just anything that's happened in the most recent past of your life. But this happens to do or happens to be connected to your future. How do you want to be remembered? What kind of legacy do you want to leave in connection to your name? That sort of thing. So this is a lot trickier to come up with because it's about the future and the future hasn't happened yet. So you might need to spend a little bit extra time brainstorming with this one. But that is our name poem graphic organizer. So let's go back. Okay. This video is going to be in 2 parts because it's going to be helpful. So when is the last day to turn in past assignments? Friday, November 6th. Remember that. What are the 2 things that I need to have turned in by next week, like the beginning of next week? Your name poem graphic organizer, depending on your cohort. And then this is what we'll be working on for our next synchronous day. So I'm going to pause,